All right, well, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. I finally found a little bit of time throughout the day, and I'm making a hockey video. Just looking at the standings about 2/3 of the way through the season, looking at the playoff picture, looking at everything, everyone in the hunt, everything to go on with these playoff teams, and some new additions from last year, which is always a welcome surprise, and a couple teams that I did not think would make it. A couple teams that overachieved, a couple teams that did better than I thought, a couple teams that are falling off a cliff, and I think there's more of those than anything this year. So let's just get on with it. Atlantic Division, first in the Atlantic. To some people's surprise at the start of the year, myself included, the Boston Bruins, and maybe not there for long. They're 1 point up on the next team down. 56 games played, 33-12-11 record. Lots of overtime losses for Boston. That's one thing to keep note of, that they are the team in the playoffs, at least, that has the most overtime losses of anybody in the East or West. Entire playoff picture, wild cards, you name it, they have more overtime losses than anybody, with 11. They have 77 points. Their last 10 games, 4-4-2, and the last game they won. But 4-4-2 in the last 10 is not great. They've been on a bit of a slide. A little bit tough to see the Bruins keeping this lead on the Atlantic. I don't think they hold the lead in the Atlantic. I don't think they hold it in the conference. I think they're going to fall off a little bit. I still expect them to stay in the playoffs, but I do believe the next team, the Panthers, will be overtaking them with 55 games played. So 1 game at hand, 1 point back on Boston right now. 3 more wins, 36-15-4. So they have 7 less overtime losses, which is making up a lot of points for Boston right there. And at 9-1-0 in their last 10. Great stretch for the Panthers. They're looking like one of the top teams in the entire East. They're the team that I'm most afraid of as a Rangers fan to play at any point in the playoffs. Win 5 in a row. 5-game win streak for the Panthers. They're looking great. I don't even know what I could say about them. I mean, they are like coming fresh off of Stanley Cup Finals, and I think they want more. So, good for them. Also, I have the hiccups. That's a bad timing for that, but that sucks. Bear with me here. It's the first time I've made one of these videos in a while. Third place, we got the Maple Leafs 8 points back on the Panthers for second in the Atlantic right now, but they're riding their own 4-game win streak. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10, 54 games played, game at hand on the Panthers, 2 games at hand on the Bruins, 30-16-8. They also have quite a few overtime losses for 68 points. They do have a firm enough lead on other teams in the Atlantic now, so that's good for them. Looks like their playoff spot is all but secure now, so that's good for the Leafs. Their new quest is to try and get home ice advantage in a first-round series against who could be the Panthers or the Bruins. And as for Leafs fans, I don't know who you'd rather play. Probably Boston. And that might suck, because that's probably the most likely option for you guys right now. And wild card number 1, we got the Tampa Bay Lightning just falling out of that 2 days ago, I believe. They have 57 games played, so they have 3 more games played than the Leafs. So it's going to be hard for them to make up ground. They're also 3 points back on the Leafs. 30 wins, 22 losses, and 5 overtime losses. 6-4-0 in their last 10 with a 2-game losing streak right now. They got smoked by the Panthers 9-2 the other day. So the Lightning are not looking like the team that they used to be. They've been massively carried by their power play this year. Their defensive numbers have been garbage. Vasilevsky's been rocking a very bad save percentage recently. I think it's below 900 on the season, which is not like him. But we've seen a lot of goalies, especially like Ullmark, Samsonov, even Shesterkin for the Rangers. You got the goalies for the Hurricanes. Like, all these goalies are kind of just falling off a bit of a cliff this year. The Devils goalies as well, Vanacek and Schmidt, I guess, is the other one. But yeah, no, like a lot of the goalies this year are very mediocre, and we're seeing that at least in the East. So Lightning with the first wild card right now, and they're 1 point up on the second wild card, who's also from their division, the Detroit Red Wings. It's very nice to see them coming out of their rebuild. They got Patrick Kane in the offseason. 55 games played, 29 wins, 20 losses, and 6 overtime losses. 64 points, 6-3-1 in their last 10 with a 2-game win streak. And it looks like they could keep going with this. I think the Red Wings have turned a page where they're not just going to fall off a cliff anytime soon. I don't think that they're going to particularly leap up any further in the standings, but I think they'll have a hold on the first wild card very shortly. I think they're going to be passing the Lightning, and they should be taking pretty good care of that wild card 1 slot for the rest of the year, I think, because the Leafs are going to be a tough customer to catch right now. They're 4 points back on the Leafs for third in the Atlantic, 1 point back on the Lightning right now, and I think they take over the Lightning. Lightning might fall out of the playoff race entirely this year, depending on how some of the other teams do. But as of right now, both of the wild cards coming from the Atlantic Division, and nothing from the Metro. And I did actually kind of expect that at the start of the year, given how good the Atlantic looked. But we do have 4 teams right below the playoff line from the Metro. So it's going to be an interesting race, is all I could say. Speaking of the Metro, number 1 in the Metro Division, the New York Rangers. Very surprising team, in my opinion. That's my favorite team, as you guys already probably know. 55 games played, 36 wins, 16 losses, and 3 overtime losses for 75 points. That's good enough for third in the East, just behind the Bruins and Panthers. They have 8 wins, 1 loss, and 1 overtime loss in their last 10, and they're on a 7-game win streak, which is the highest in the entire NHL at this point. Second would be the Panthers, I believe. Yep. But yeah, Rangers are holding a 4-point lead on first place in the Metro, despite having a pretty mediocre 2 months prior to this streak that they had. But the Hurricanes now are also on a bit of a heater. They had a very tough start to the season. They didn't look like a great enough team to take on this Metro Division for the 6th straight year. But either way, 55 games played for the Hurricanes, 33 wins, 17 losses, 5 overtime losses, 71 points. That's good for 8-2-0 in their last 10. They've been on a pretty big heater as well, and they're on a 3-game win streak. I think the goaltending has caught up for the Hurricanes. They've gotten very good goaltending from Kochetkov. Ranta came back as well from his wave. And I'm very surprised that other teams didn't actually pick up Ranta, especially a team like maybe even the Devils that has a little bit of cap space to work with. But I don't know. It's tough to look at the Hurricanes as anything less than a good team right now. And then we got the Flyers, a very surprising team. Everyone had them at the bottom of the standings, I think, for the East. 56 games played, 29, 20, and 7. 6 points back on the Hurricanes for second, but they are firmly in third right now. 4-5-1 in their last 10 with a 2-game losing streak. So they're on a bit of a skid. I think Tortorella has been teaching this team how to play well for a bit now. They're probably the hardest working team in the entire league. They don't have a lot of high-end talent. They don't have a great goalie right now. I believe Samuel Ersson's been taking over for Carter Hart's indefinite leave, which is probably at least the end of this year and maybe the rest of his entire career, given what has happened with the Hockey Canada scandal and everything like that. Obviously, a tough loss for the Flyers. That might be the biggest loss in the NHL, given that whole ordeal there. But yeah, I don't know what to say about the Flyers. They're a very hard-working team. They remind me a little bit of the Blue Jackets a few years ago under Tortorella, where they just squeaked into the playoffs and they did some damage against Tampa Bay. But for now, they have a 5-point lead on the next Metro team. And even then, I mean, they would be in a wild card if they caught up anyway. And I don't think that the Flyers are going to be falling out for a little bit. I mean, they have had a tough stretch, but they're a very hardworking team. I think they could probably get through this. And maybe by the end of the year, we do ask questions on maybe the Flyers doing a little bit of a retool on the fly, even though they have this surprisingly good record. This might end up being a detriment because they won't get a high draft pick this year. And I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs with this kind of roster. So that's kind of tough, especially with a number one goaltender. I don't think you're riding Samuel Ersson throughout the playoffs. But for now, they do have a firm spot in the Metro right now. I mean, it's a pretty weak division this year, as expected, especially with the Devils, the next best team in the Metro, holding the record that they have. They're 5 points back on They're 5 points back on the Flyers. They're 4 points back on the Red Wings for the wild card. The New Jersey Devils need a goalie badly. I mean, if there's any sort of goaltender trade to be made, whether it's Markstrom, I heard a lot of talks about Markstrom. Apparently, earlier in the year, a Markstrom trade did fall through for the Devils. They couldn't get it done. Sorry, I'm a little sick, by the way. A few sniffles here and there. 54 games played. They got some games in hand in the teams above them. 28, 22, and 4. Not a terrible record, but not as good as they were last year. That's good for 60 points. And 5-4 in one of the last 10. One-game win streak. They had that nice win outdoors the other day at the Stadium Series, so good for them. The Islanders are a very tough team to talk about. 54 games played. They also have games at hand on the other teams above them. They are 22, 18, and 14. That is a ton of overtime losses. I mean a ton of overtime losses. That's insane. They almost have as many overtime losses as regulation losses, and that is tough to see. The Islanders obviously just blew a huge lead to the Rangers the other day at the Stadium Series. They have 58 points. They're 6 back on the second wild card. I don't see them catching that. I don't see them being a good enough team to catch that. I think they should retool on the fly here. They still have some good pieces like Brock Nelson. They still got Palmieri. They still got Barzell. They still got Dobson's been having a great year. Sorokin's been a little off his mark lately, but still Sorokin. And they have Varlamov. That's a great tandem. It's gotten them far in the playoffs before with the roster similar to this. I think the loss of Barry Trotz the last few years has really detrimented them because he was the coach that really got them far in the playoffs. But they just don't have it this year. I don't see the Isles coming back from this. I don't think there's much that Patrick Waugh could do. So I don't know. Underneath them is the Capitals, and they're even worse. I don't even know why I put them on here. I just kind of put the Capitals on here because I'm putting the Penguins too, and they have very similar records. And I do think that the Penguins have a better chance at making the playoffs than the Capitals, at least. But still, it's tough to see the Capitals looking like this. Ovechkin's at least turned it up a bit. But 53 games played, so they also have games in hand. 24 wins, 21 losses, and 8 overtime losses. So they have more wins than the Islanders. And 56 points. They're 8 back on wild card. 2-6-2 in their last 10, but they won their last one. That's a rough last 10. It's obviously trending downward for the Capitals, and it's very hard to justify them buying at the deadline. I'd say that a few pieces get sold. I believe Kuznetsov may be looking at his final year in Washington. And for Ovechkin, I mean, if Backstrom retires and Ovechkin's the last remaining guy from those runs, do you contemplate moving Ovechkin so he could get that goal record? And maybe he contemplates a trade. Maybe he contemplates signing somewhere else. Maybe they try and just push through for a few more years and keep buying just to get Ovechkin that record because it's a little bit more than it's more than a rebuild for the Capitals at this stage. I think they realize. I think they might just be trying to get Ovechkin that achievement for his career before they call it quits on this core. And beneath them is the Penguins. 52 games played, one less than the Capitals. 24 wins, 21 losses, and 7 overtime losses. This is a very identical record, minus 1 overtime loss. They're 1 point back on Washington, 9 points back from the wild card. 3-6-1 on the last 10 on a 1-game losing streak, I believe. And they have the best goal differential for any team not in the playoffs. This is very weird to see for the Penguins. A lot of people had them as the 4th best in the Metro. I did as well. I thought that they were going to be fighting for the wild card and very close at the very least to getting there. They still are. They're not they're not out of distance per se. I mean, they have 3 games at hand. If they win those, then that's just 3 points back. So you just got to win your games. If they win their games, then they're fine. If not, then I don't know. Because they have too good of a roster to rebuild, I think, and they have too good of a roster to call it quits in the season. So I think the Penguins are going to be one of those teams that's pushing no matter what this year. I don't think they're selling. I don't think they get rid of Gensel. I don't think they get rid of Crosby. I don't think they get rid of Malkin or Letang or Carlson. They're stuck with those guys. Their power play needs to figure it out, and if the power play figures it out, it's going to mean hell in a bottle for the teams above them, especially the top two. Look at the Panthers, the Bruins, or the Rangers, or the Hurricanes. Any of the teams that would have to play them in the first round would not have a fun time with it. I know as a Rangers fan, I would not want to play against the Penguins in the first round. That would be a little terrifying for me because their roster is battle-tested for playoffs, and you know that they want to make it after missing in the way that they did last year. So I'm looking for the Penguins to make a little bit of a push for the end of the year. I don't see any gaping holes in their lineup. I mean, their depth is an issue, but once their power play clicks, I think that's it for them. And then they could get back into it. I don't think that the Penguins are out by any means. Moving over to the West. This is a little bit more surprising. There's a little bit more teams that are unsung heroes this year, I think. So from the Central, we got the Dallas Stars. They're topping the Central with 56 games played, 34 wins, 14 losses, and 8 overtime losses. Good for 76 points. They're 7-1-2 in the last 10 with a 2-game losing streak, which is kind of weird. But I think the Stars are a very solid team. They were my pick last year to win the Cup. If the Rangers didn't, I had Rangers Stars in the finals last year, and I think it would be a great Stanley Cup final. But they might be the best playoff caliber team in the entire West right now, I think. And at least in the Central, in my opinion, because the Avalanche still don't have Landeskog for the rest of the year, and they've been a little bit unlike themselves lately. The Avalanche are 4 points back on first in the division. They have 34 wins, same number of wins, 18 losses and 4 overtime losses. It's just the overtime points that are screwing over the Avalanche with the lead there. And I'm not sure if I'd want to win the division or not in that one, because the winner of that division would be playing the Kings in the first round. And that'd be a little bit of a tough matchup for the wild card there. I don't know if I would like that if I were the Stars or the Avalanche. But third place is the surprising Winnipeg Jets, and they were very good for a while this year, but they've had a bit of a rough stretch. 53 games played, 33-15-5, a very, very good record. This is an incredible record for this team. I don't count them out of taking over this first or second spot either, because they're only 1 point back on the Avalanche, 5 back on the Stars, and they have 3 games in hand. If they win those 3 games, they're first. So keep an eye on that. They are 4-5-1 in the last 10, though. 1 game losing streak for them. And the only other team from the Central I'll talk about here, in the playoffs at least, is the Blues. Wild card 2 right now, and they're holding on for dear life. They have 4 teams behind them by 3 points or less. And I don't think the Blues are going to hold it. 55 games played, 29 wins, 24 losses, 2 overtime losses. That's a very low number of overtime losses, but it's just because they keep losing in regulation. 60 points, 6-4-0 in their last 10, and a 2-game losing streak under their belt, especially after that game against the Leafs. That was a tough one. The Pacific Division. This one's very surprising to me, with the Canucks number 1 in the entire West. And this one, actually, Canucks number 1 in the entire league now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, this is, and it's a hefty lead, too. It's a 3-point lead on the next best team. I guess hefty. 37 wins, 14 losses, 6 overtime losses for the Canucks, 80 points, 5-3-2 in their last 10. Not great, 2-game losing streak, but everything's been clicking for the Canucks. Their last game was a very, very bad one, though. That was a barn burner. They were up 5-2 on the Wild and ended up losing 10-7, I think it was, at the final score. Not a score you'd be seeing in a hockey game very often. Double digits against the Wild is not something you want to see. 2 hat tricks against them that game from Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov, who's finally been finding his stride. Very tough game. Hopefully they can bounce back from that. They do play the Avalanche tonight, which should be a very good game. But as of right now, the Canucks have a firm lead on first place in the Pacific. 10 points up on the next best team, the Vegas Golden Knights. 55 games played, 32-17-6 for 70 points, 6-3-1 in their last 10. 1-game win streak for the Golden Knights. They had a very bad stretch of games in the middle of the season there. Actually, earlier on, I want to say maybe around the Christmas break. where they got shut out. I think it was 4 times in 10 games or 4 times in 12 games. They got shut out quite a bit. Their offense was lacking, but that was because I think Eichel was gone for a stretch as well. I will admit I don't know who's healthy for the Knights right now. I do know that Shea Theodore's out right now, though. Their goaltending's been fantastic. Aiden Hill's been great, carrying off his Stanley Cup performance last year. Not much to say about the Golden Knights, but they look ready to make a run again. I mean, I'd be scared to play the Golden Knights first round, and their first round matchup right now would be the Edmonton Oilers, who are 3 points back on them in the Pacific right now. And what a crazy year they've had. I mean, they were at one point last place in the entire league after losing to the San Jose Sharks. 52 games played. 3 games at hand on the Golden Knights, 5 games at hand on the Canucks. So they can make up some serious ground if they keep up their trend here. 33 wins, 18 losses, and 1 overtime loss for 67 points. 7-3-0 in their last 10 on a 2-game win streak right now. And they look like they're going to keep riding this wave. McDavid's been incredible lately. I haven't heard much about anybody else because of him, because he's been that good. Nobody else has been talked about on the Oilers that much. Stuart Skinner's been great, recently at least. I'm not going to lie, I don't know if Campbell's back. Sorry, yawning. Wow, boring. Oilers, sorry. I don't know if Campbell's back or not. I don't think so. But either way, Stuart Skinner's been carrying the workload for quite some time now, and he's got his numbers back up from where they were at the start of the year. Right below them are the LA Kings, who fell off an absolute cliff recently. I mean, they were at one point like first place of the West, I think, and now they're hovering on the wild card 1 slot for the West. They're 3 points back on the Oilers right now. I don't think they end up catching them because the Oilers are on a heater and the Kings aren't exactly on that much of a heater. I mean, 3-game win streak for the Kings, but I mean, they were better earlier on in the year. I think it's getting tough to justify the Kings being a contender at this point. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think they really do desperately need a goalie, as do some of the teams in the league right now. Markstrom to the Kings would immediately change my opinion on everything if that were to happen. But I'm not sure if the Flames are going to want to retool or not, or get rid of Markstrom right now. Right now they have 53 wins, 27, 16, and 10, 64 points, 5, 3, and 2 in the last 10, and a 3-game win streak. That's fine because they're 4 points up on the second wild card, so they can at least deal with that, and they're 6 points up on the team right below that. So as long as they don't blow 6 points over the next couple months, I mean, they should be still in the playoffs. But I don't know. I mean, they were first. They were up there, right up with the Canucks a couple months ago, and now they are 16 points back on that team. So it's really hard to look at the Kings as a team that they once were earlier in the year. Maybe that was just a stint they had. Who knows? In the hunt in the West, though, is a little interesting because we got 4 teams that are very, very close, as I spoke about before. And the Wild are a team I'm going to want to be looking out for right now. 55 games played, 26, 23, and 6. They had a bad start to the year. Bad start to the year. It wasn't great for the Wild. They were one of the worst teams in the West. 58 points right now. They're 2 back on a wild card, and they are 7-2-1 in their last 10. And that win yesterday, or the day before, whenever it was, that was their 1 game in a row for the win. But that 10-7 win was humongous. That looked like an absolute rejuvenation of their offense. Kaprizov looking like his self from last year and the year before. Eric Sinek looking great. I mean, this team could go far if they pull it together like they did yesterday midway through the game against the Canucks. That was an impressive win for them. That was probably their win of the year right there. 10-7, though, is incredible. That was insane. Their power play went crazy at the end of the second into the third period. The Nashville Predators are a team that I'm really torn about. They're in the same spot as the Wild. They're 2 points back in the wild card. 55 games played, 28, 25, and 2. Very few overtime points from them. 3-6-1 in their last 10 with the 1-game win streak. I don't know how to feel about the Predators. I don't think that Saros has been playing up to his potential recently. Um, that's pretty much it. I mean, they aren't that special of a team. I feel like the Predators should have retooled in the offseason instead of getting all these aging pieces. I'm looking at like O'Reilly as one of those pieces. I think losing Duchesne was a really tough thing for them. That's just their depth scoring. All in all, a pretty mediocre team, and I wouldn't be scared to play them at all in the first round if I were the Stars, the Avs, or the Canucks. Below them are the Kraken, though, and this is another story about overtime points where they're 23, 21, and 11. 11 overtime points. That's terrible. 57 points. They're one back on the other two I just talked about. 3 back on wild card 2. 4, 4, and 2 in their last 10 with a 1-game losing streak right now. And I think it's a little bit of a reality check this year for Kraken fans. I don't think they're the powerhouse that they wanted them to be after making the second round last year and taking out the Avalanche. Definitely not as good last year, but I do think that they're just one resurgence away from making the playoffs. I mean, if they just start winning these overtime games even, then like they'd be looking at a playoff spot right now. I think they're better looking than the Blues, in my opinion. I mean, the Blues don't look like anything special. I'd put the Kraken or the Wild as the teams I'd pick to make a wild card over the Blues if they do end up falling off. But the Wild look like that team that would take it right now. And below them, just same amount of points, 3 points back on the wild card, are the Flames. And I'm not sure what to think about the Flames either. Similar situation to the Predators almost, where I think that their best days are probably behind them. They do have pieces they could sell. Excuse me. 56 games played, 26, 25, and 5. 57 points, 5 and 5 in their last 10 with a 1-game win streak. This might be the most mediocre team in the league. I mean, you have Huberdeau coming back into his own a little bit. Kadri's there still, Weegar. Markstrom's been playing great. I mean, he's playing as if he wants to get traded, in my opinion. But that's just me. If he goes to a team like the Devils, I could see them going on a run. But the Flames don't look like they can push this year. At least I wouldn't. I wouldn't risk what happened last year where they just lose out in the playoffs by a few points and then can't do any real damage. There's too many good teams in the West this year to justify that for these bottom tier teams like the Predators and the Flames and the Kraken. Don't buy at the deadline for these teams. Don't buy at the deadline. Teams like the Canucks, the Golden Knights, the Oilers, the Kings, the Stars, the Avs, Jets. Great years for all these teams right now. And I wouldn't want to be playing 3 of those teams on the way to a Stanley Cup final where you'd probably have to play against a team like the Panthers or the Rangers or the Hurricanes. It is a tough road out of the West this year. And I'd be looking for a team from the East to win a cup for the first time in a few years. Just because I think it would be a little bit easier through the East this year. Just the playoff matchups this year are looking a little fun as well. We got the Stars would be home ice against the Kings in the first round. And that would be a great series, actually, especially if the Kings decide to come back into their own from earlier on in the year. I think that would be a very underrated matchup. Avalanche playing at home against the Jets would be a very fun one as well. The Canucks against the Blues in the second wild card, but that is subject to change as well. Whoever would be in the bottom there, the Wild, Preds, Kraken, or Flames. And the Golden Knights against the Oilers. That one's one to look forward to, because I think that one's the biggest lockout of anything this year so far. There's a 10-point gap between the Golden Knights and the Canucks, and I don't see the Oilers losing out on their third-place spot. So it's looking like Golden Knights Oilers. I don't know who's going to get home ice. It's only a 3-point difference between these teams. But we might be destined for a really special first-round matchup between these teams. Reminding me last year of kind of the Rangers and Devils, where you probably could have seen them in round 2 or 3, and you wouldn't be surprised. 2 of probably the best teams in the West I'm looking at are the Golden Knights and Oilers, and one of them is going to be out in the first round. So that's tough. And if you're the Canucks, then you'd be looking at playing one of those teams in the second round if you make it there as well. Canucks Oilers second round or Canucks Golden Knights would both be incredible to watch. That would be some of the best hockey we would get to watch all year. And for the East, this one's a little bit more fun to watch, I think, in the East, just because a lot of the bigger name teams like the Rangers and the Leafs and the Panthers, the Bruins are all in this division and conference. The Bruins would be at home against the Red Wings. The Red Wings are the second wild card right now. I think that'd be a great series. Original six matchup, and the Red Wings have been on a bit of a heater compared to the Bruins lately. I think the Red Wings might take that series, to be honest. And the Panthers are at home against the Maple Leafs. That would be a little bit of a jarring matchup for Leafs fans as well. I don't know if they'd want that. Panthers are probably going to end up overtaking the Bruins, so it looks like it could be a Leafs and Bruins first round and maybe Panthers Red Wings. But that's all subject to change. It's hard to really tell for a playoff picture this far away from even the deadline. So I don't know. And Rangers versus Lightning in round one would be a fun one because the Lightning have been on a bit of a skid, but the Rangers are looking great. I think the Rangers would take the Lightning to town in the first round, but I don't think I'd want to play them. Who wants to play the Lightning in round one? Raise your hand. They would be a very sleeper pick, I think. And the Lightning going through the Eastern, not the Eastern, god damn it, what's it called? The Metro Division as a wild card would be very huge, I think, because think about it this way. The Lightning playing against the Rangers instead of playing maybe the Panthers or the Bruins might be huge for them. If they get past the Rangers, and then it's Carolina or the Flyers, and I think they take either of those teams out to lunch in 5 games or less. Lightning just have a history with teams in the East, and they just know how to beat them. I think the only team that the Lightning would be really worried about is maybe the Leafs or the Panthers in the Atlantic, and even then, they don't have to play them in the third round if they went through the Metro, so good for them. And this is the weirdest matchup of all of them, I think, would be the Hurricanes against the Flyers. Hurricanes with home ice advantage. The Flyers are the kind of the odd team out here, I think. It looks like the Devils could be back up there, I think, within a bit, if they could pull it together. But other than that, I mean, the Flyers and Hurricanes would be a great series. I mean, if the Flyers end up beating the Hurricanes, that would be incredible for a team like the Rangers to go on a bit of a run as well. Because I think the Hurricanes are the only team in the Metro that I'm scared about as a Rangers fan. As of right now, as all the rosters are currently constructed, Hurricanes are the only team I'd be a little terrified about if I was playing them in the first or second round. But I think the Hurricanes would take it. The Hurricanes are a very hard-working team as well as the Flyers, but the Hurricanes just have that star power. They have that ability to take over control of a game against these good teams, and I think they would just lock it in under Rod Brindamore in the playoffs again, as they always do. But yeah, I think the playoffs this year are going to be incredible. Like, this is queuing up to be not only the best playoffs I've seen in a while, but the best race for the playoffs I've seen in a while. Last year was great, but there was only a few teams in it for the race. It was more or less just seeing if Calgary could make it in the West and seeing if the Panthers or the Islanders, the Penguins would make it in the East. This year, we have 4 teams within 3 points in the West, and we have a few teams in the hunt in the East as well. 4 teams from the Metro Division, the Devils, Isles, Caps, and Penguins. This is going to be a really special last few months of the year, I think, and even just seeing what the matchups would be, because we have a lot of teams trying to take over the conference titles. We have a lot of teams trying to get playoff spots and wild cards. A lot of teams fighting for home ice advantage in the first round. I'm looking at the Oilers and Golden Knights there. Just let me know what you guys think. And I don't know how many underdogs we truly have this year. I mean, the only underdogs I could really think of would maybe be the Blues in the West, and in the East I'd be thinking maybe like the Lightning, but even that's a stretch because they're a great playoff team and they're proven in the playoffs. The Red Wings looking to make the playoffs for the first time in a couple of years as well, but the Flyers there too. They're trying to make a name for themselves in the East, but other than that, I mean, it's going to be great, and I guess I'll make a video maybe after the trade deadline as well, trying to recap everything that's been going on and seeing what the rosters are looking like after they add or subtract to the lineups as well. But other than that, have a great day, and I'll try to make some more videos like this very shortly in the future. Just figured I have a sick day on my belt now. I mean, I had to get this done some point. I haven't done a video in quite some time, so thank you guys for watching. If you watched this far, we're 35 minutes in right now. This is more of a podcast than a video, if anything. I mean, you got some plants in the background and everything, but you can just put this on as a podcast kind of thing. That's what I'm a little bit going for with the YouTube here. But other than that, I'll keep you guys updated as the things go on, and have yourself a good one.